Hi, students. We are going to do a game together. It's on Prep Test 92, and it's from section 4. There's actually 2 sections of logic games on Prep Test 92. So this is the first game that is on the 4th section of Prep Test 92. So this is kind of just an ordering game. And we're going to place things in order, and we're going to have a sequence of 7. So we have 7 spots. A one-to-one game. And the variables we are placing in order are L, N, R, S, and Y. And then we also have 2 breaks, 2 empty spots, 2 things where nobody performs. So first thing we're going to do is diagram our rules. The first rule says that the breaks can't be next to each other. The next one says that Y needs to be basically before both of the breaks. Because if Y has to be before the first break, well, by definition, the first break is going to be before the second break. And you could see how I wrote this rule where I actually put that X in the middle of them, because it's not just Y before both of them. We also need something between the 2 breaks. So this is going to be a very powerful rule for Y. This is going to very much restrict where Y can be, because Y cannot be too close to the end. It's got too much stuff forced to be behind it. Our next rule says, by the way, when you see me looking down, I'm reading the game. I can't put it on the screen, so you need to have Prep Plus in another window, or you need to have the game printed out. Next one says, the sequencing rule. But we can actually merge this with the next rule. I don't like the way that looks. There we go. There we go. You can merge those rules together. I like it when I have something that's more visually powerful. And then our very last rule is just direct placement. Love that. There we go. So what I always do after I have my rules diagram is I'll stop and I'll look for what I call free agents. And a free agent is a variable with no rule attached. I don't see that here. Every single one of these variables has a rule attached to it. So none of them are free as a bird. They all have some kind of restriction. Then I'm going to look for inferences. And one of the things I like to look for in an ordering game is, does any variable have a whole bunch of things shoved to one side of it, so to speak? And in this case, I don't know how else to describe that, like technically. In this case, yes. Y has at least 3 variables to the right of this. So this means Y could only go in one of the first 3 spots. Is that correct? Yes. If Y can only possibly go here. If Y went here, the 2 breaks would have nothing in between them. That's not possible. Except, here's the thing. I don't think Y can be in position number 3. And I think it's because of how this rule and this rule will interact. Let's take a look and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If Y was here, we'd have to have our 2 breaks on. Our breaks would have to be on 4 and 6, and then something would have to be between them. Except here's the thing, how would this rule play out? Because R and N need to be next to each other, and now I don't have a way to put R and N next to each other and also behind something. The only 2 spots that are next to each other are right here, and then they wouldn't be behind S. So Y can't be in 3. And this is good because the more restrictions, the better. And the more of them that you can see up top before you start to actually answer the questions, the better. Had you actually just gone to the questions without creating this inference, you probably would have been fine, but maybe not. And you can save yourself some time this way. From what I can see, Y cannot be in 3, can't be anywhere past that. It's got to be in either 1 or 2. And because I have such a restrictive rule, just this split option, where Y is either in 1 or 2. I'm going to set up boards for 1. I'm just going to go ahead and set up boards because these are basically like templates that I'm starting. Everything will fall under one of either the right side where Y is on 2 or the left side. Y is on 1. Everything, all the possible solutions for this game will fall into one of these two templates. Oh, and L is on 7 no matter what. I'm just going to look at this and see if visually I can see an inference that I can make again, and I do. And again, it has to do with combining kind of all the rules and the way they all interact. I know that the 2 breaks both come after Y. So on my left side, that just means the 2 breaks can be in any of the available things. It's not very powerful, any of the available positions. But on my right side, those 2 breaks need to come somewhere in 3, 4, 5, and 6, but not next to each other. That was my dog snoring. I also know that this rule where R and N are going to be next to each other is powerful. Anytime you have like a block or a roll or like an open block, some kind of a chunk or a clump, for lack of a better term, these are powerful. Because where can I possibly put the RN? Obviously not on number 1. It's going to have to come somewhere in that 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm looking at the right side again, just so y'all know. And in order for me to have both of the breaks and they're separate, and then also have that RN roll, it's going to have to be distributed like so. There we go. So we're going to have a break on 3, a break on 6. R and N will be on 4 and 5 in either order. It doesn't matter. And that leaves us with one variable left to distribute, which is S, and it's going to have to be first because there's only one spot left. So now we have our whole right side, excuse me, board or template. We have it all pretty much distributed. There's only 2 possibilities. It could be SY break, R and N, and then break and L, or SY break, N and R, and then break and L. That's it. We just have 2 possibilities. On the left side, I'm not seeing like some kind of a powerful inference to be made up top. I could figure out a way to distribute all the possibilities for this, but I'm not sure it's a great use of my time. I don't know if I would do it on the exam. This is as far as I would go on the exam before I started to answer the questions. So let's look at question number 1. This is just a complete and accurate list or apply the rules type of question. So basically, I'm going to take a rule and just apply it down the line of the answer choices until I can get rid of something. Well, the first rule that the breaks can't be next to each other, none of the answer choices violate that. So we'll move on to the next. The next rule basically tells us that Y needs to be before both of the breaks. So A violates that. And then what about our next rule? Our next rule is the SR rule. And B violates that rule. B has R before S, so we can get rid of that rule. What is our next rule? Our next rule is the RN rule. By the way, I usually, for these type of questions, I'll usually read off of the actual passage, not my notation, not my shorthand, not my symbolization. It's the only question type that I do that for, just because it goes faster. So next one is the RN rule, which E violates. So what else am I missing? So I'm between C and D. Yeah, so looking at D, oh yeah, L has to be on number 7. I totally forgot that rule. D violates that rule and leaves us with C as the correct answer. So which one do I want to do next? I think I'm going to do these in the order given. I usually like to do the local ones first, where they give you like this, if blah, 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 then whatever. I like to do this first. So let's do number 2. Here's what number 2 says. This is this local rule. When they give us a local rule, I actually like to diagram it in my own like notation just so I can actually see it. So if that happens, then what must be true? So here's what I'm looking at. In order to have an SY block, we have to deal with our right side template. That could never happen on our left side template because Y is number 1. So we're looking at our right side template, and there's a bunch of things that need to be true, that must be true. Things like S is in 1, Y is in 2. There's a break for the 3rd spot. There's a break for the 6th spot. Things like that must be true. And you could also have things like, Y is before R, something like that. But let's look through the answer choices. There we go. Correct answer is D. Again, there were a lot of things that could have been true, but they were referring to that. Okay, let's do number. I'm going to skip number 5 for a minute. No, number 3. I'm going to skip it for a minute and go to number 4. I just like to do them first with the local ones first, usually, before I have like number 3 is like basically asks us for what could be assigned to a spot. I like to save those for a little bit later. So number 4. If S is right before, not just a break, but break 2, I'll give it a subscript. Then, and this is a could be true question. Well, here's the thing. Which side of my board am I going to deal with now? It's not going to be my right side because over on my right side, S is before Y. So I'm going to have to look at my left side. And imagine that we have S and then a break and then R and roll on my left side. We also can't have the breaks next to each other. How is that going to work out? I don't know. Well, I think there's only a couple ways for it to work out because you have 5 spots available here. Everything else is assigned. And I need to assign S and then the second break. Okay, S and then the second break. Now that's the key. That means the first break needs to be somewhere over here, basically before that. So I can see where everything gets assigned now. So I feel like I just erased it when I didn't need to. So S is immediately before the second break. This means the first break comes before that block. So here's how it's going to have to look. That's the only possible way for this to work. So what is the answer? That's what they were asking about here. The correct answer is B. I'll tell you what else. You should really preserve your work. I don't always do that in these videos because I'm not taking the LSAT. I already took the LSAT. But when you are taking the LSAT, you should preserve your work because you might be able to use that again to answer another question. Neaten this up a little bit. Okay, let's look at number 3. This is asking us about basically what could be assigned to position number 5. And I could actually answer this very easily. I didn't realize how easy this one would be. The correct answer is E. We can clearly see that N could be there. So that turned out to be easier than I thought. The last 2 are global questions. The last 2 are global questions about what must be true, what is always true. So I'm going to use like a combination of my boards, my 2 boards that I set up, and also like my previous work, which is here, and also previous work includes the correct answer to the first question, which is the apply the rules question. You can use that as previous work because it's a possibility. It's part of your solution set. But what I'll just do is go down the list and see Do any of these not have to be true? Can I eliminate anything? So looking at A, that definitely doesn't have to be true. Look over here. We have the first break, and we can have either R or N after them. So it doesn't need to be N, so I would get rid of A. What about B? Well, that one's definitely not true. N wouldn't have to be right after the second break. Look over here, it could be before it. So B is not true. It doesn't have to be true. These must be trues. I can definitely eliminate stuff a lot, usually easier than I can select something. What about C? Does R need to perform immediately for break number 2? Definitely not, because look, R could be 2 spaces before break 2. What about D? Does S need to be some time before the second break? Well, over on my right side, I can see that it does. In fact, S is before both of my breaks. I can also see that in my previous work that I created here, S is before the second break. I could look at my number 1, my apply the rules, the solution that I came up with there. S is also before the second break. This could be the correct answer. I am going to hold on to it for a minute. What about E? E is asking about whether or not Y needs to be in the space immediately preceding the first break. So I don't know. I can see that in my right side board, it has to be that way. I can also see that right here, it has to be that way. But does it always have to be that way? What about my answer to number 1, which gave me a possible solution? It is also that way. So then the question is, does it always have to be that way? I don't know. So what I would do is to just try to test it out, see if I could possibly make it not true, if that makes sense. Could I possibly create a solution in which Y is not immediately in the spot immediately before the first break? Well, I can't do that with my right side board. I can't do that over here. So I'll have to use my left side board. And let's see, number could I possibly put the first break right there, and then the second break sometime later? I don't see why not. I would have to put S over here. Would have to be R and roll over here. To me, this looks totally legitimate, doesn't it? It follows all the rules. Yeah, it obeys all the rules, and yet Y is not immediately preceding the first break. So that doesn't have to happen. So for that reason, I would get rid of E. So right there, just by process of elimination, I could select D. But if we wanted to go a little bit deeper, maybe we can do that. Would it be possible to prove D wrong, to create a possibility where D isn't true? What I'm trying to say is, could S possibly come after the second break? I don't think so, because that'd be really far back. Over my right side, you clearly see that's not true. What about my left side? What about right here? How would that be possible? Well, for S to be after the second break, let's put both the breaks as forward as we could. We would have to put a break over here and a break over here because they can't be next to each other. So this is the furthest to the left that we could put the breaks. And then if we put S over here, how could we have the R and roll come after it? We wouldn't. They would be smushed. You can't smush things in the LSAT. Everything needs its own spot. So hopefully that would clarify why D is correct. D is the one that must be true because we can't make it not true. Okay, it's late. I'm a little tired, but I'm finishing up section 92 tonight. So let's look at number 6. Another global must be true. And again, I would just do it the same way. I would look at my previous work, and I actually created like another solution that I could work with. I think, yeah, I created another, so that could help. So let's look at A. That definitely doesn't have to be true. N and R could flip, so no. What about B? That's not true. I'm looking at several examples right now where N is not before S. I mean, here, like, it doesn't have to be true. So B is definitely not it. Sorry, I erased too much. What about C? Okay, this is definitely not true either. I am looking at several examples where R comes after Y. I'm looking again at the same, it's easily possible. In fact, I think I can't really see that R could come before Y. So no. What about D? Does Y need to be before N? Well, I think so, and here's why. Y is restricted to either the first or the second spot. So you can see over here on the left side, my left side board, where Y is the first spot, then it's definitely before N because it's before everything. And then you can see on my right side spot, the only thing that would come before Y would be S and would come after. So this is the one that has to be true. D has to be true. And what about E? Is it possible? Not possible. Does it need to be true that Y needs to come before S? No, it doesn't have to be true. At my right side board, S could come before Y. So these are the correct answers to this game. I really hope this has been helpful for everybody. I love making these videos for my students and all LSAT students. It seems like just yesterday I was LSAT prepping for the longest time. All of my contact information is in that description box. Please contact me or leave a comment, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.